And a good afternoon, sir. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really well. Hope all is well in Dallas.
Oh, we're liking this NFL offseason here. Adding these couple of players, folks are getting excited around here. Michael, what do you think? Is it warranted?
Look, when you have a good team and you strengthen the team like Dallas has, and you can improve on some of the weaknesses that they had last year, it gives you hope. And I think being in the NFC, where look, let's face it, who are the top quarterbacks in the NFC? You could say Jalen Hurts. You could say Dak Prescott. Aaron Rodgers isn't there anymore. Tom Brady's not there anymore. Jared Goff's considered a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. I mean, when that's open like that, you've got a great opportunity.
Michael, when you look at the Cowboys, as you do, I know you study all these teams, but I know you really do study the Cowboys. Have they made too many changes on the offensive side of the ball to really help them? I mean, with McCarthy calling the plays, Mike Solari, moving around line coaches or running backs. Should this offense be good with all the changes they made?
I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but I do think that, what I've been hearing from McCarthy and what I've been hearing from them is, they need to get back to who they are, what they're going to be. And, obviously Pollard's a key part of that. And having the ability to control the pace of the game is going to be a key part of that. And they're going to make sure that their offensive line, can Smith stay healthy for an entire year? That's going to be critical. So I think they've got some moving pieces, but I think the one thing you do know is they know who they are. And I think Mike Martz said this the other day is not all the problems with Dallas's offense started with Dak Prescott throwing interceptions.
Michael, I was listening to you the other day talk about Odell Beckham, and everybody in the show was agreeing with you about your take on that. And for the folks that haven't checked you out about that, did Dallas dodge a bullet here? I'm sorry for lack of a better term, but Dallas dodge a bullet on Odell Beckham?
Brian, I don't think anybody was in this game at this number. I think certainly there were people interested, but there was only one team willing to overpay, and that was Baltimore. And a lot of this relates to Lamar, right? Lamar told them that, get Hopkins, get Odell, and, we'll have a better conversation. And so they went and overspent for Odell. Look, Odell's a great PR machine. The guy hasn't really played well. People say, well, he played great for the Rams. He had 5 touchdown passes. His catch percentage was 50% at that point. Catch percentage is critical for receivers. And this whole notion a guy's a number 1 receiver, it's the biggest crock in the NFL. There's maybe about 4 or 5 number 1 receivers, and that's it. Everybody else is a 2. And when you pay a 2, this kind of money on a 1-year deal, I'm not sure Odell's even a 2. Could he be a 3? Remember this. When Robert Woods left Cooper Kupp and went to Tennessee, he wasn't the same player. Do you think Odell as the number 1 is going to be better without Cooper Kupp? He had 5 touchdowns. He had 35 touchdowns his first 3 years in the league. He hasn't had 35 touchdowns since then.
Do you think CeeDee Lamb's a 1?
No, I don't. I think he's a really good player, but that doesn't make you a 1. A 1, here, let me tell you, let me classify what a 1 is. You're driving to the stadium Sunday morning, and you're sweating, and it's 30 degrees outside, and you're sweating because you don't know how the hell you're going to cover that guy. Right? Tyreek Hill's a 1. Devontae Adams is a 1.
Mm-hmm.
Amari Cooper was never a 1. He got paid like a 1, but he was never a 1. He had one skill set, wasn't competitive stamina enough to be a 1. But 1s are few and far between. Justin Jefferson's a 1. You're worried the guy's going to take over the game because you can't roll the coverage to him and take him out of the game. He still gets open. Kelsey's a 1 receiver because of the way they move him around. Kelsey's not a tight end. It's the biggest joke in football. He's never been a tight end. He doesn't block anybody at the line of scrimmage. He blocks support. We categorize him and call him a tight end, but he's a wide receiver.
How important is it to have a real 1 like that?
I think what's more important is to have the back. See, what I think we miss a lot on spread formations in football today is the back makes the passing game. When you have a back that you have to defend the box, defend in the passing game, and then defend the width and the length of the field, you make the receivers better. It's the point guard in football. The running back's the point guard. It cracks me up, all these analytical people say, well, you can't pay a running back. You can't pay Tony Pollard. He's a running back. But you can pay Keenan Allen. Who's a better player, Keenan Allen or Tony Pollard? Who averages more per catch, Keenan Allen or Tony Pollard? Who makes more big plays in a game, Keenan Allen or Tony Pollard? It's comical. The best player on the field is a weapon. Keenan Allen's a nice player. Love to have him on my team. Would I pay him $15 million? Absolutely not. No way. Is he good in the red area? Yeah. He averages 10 yards a catch. Tony Pollard, now I'm going to pay him. because he's got skill to turn the game around. He can make plays in the passing game. He can make plays in the running game.
So you wouldn't hesitate to pick Bijan at 26, then, I imagine, for these Cowboys.
Sounds like number one overall.
You know, I don't know if I pick running back that high. I do think Bijan's a three-down player. Remember this now. It's no longer downs. It's all about formations. And so the back's got to be able to play, within the formation. So if you're an 11 personnel, one back, one tight end, the back's got to be really good in pass protection, or else he's coming off the field. That's what happened to Saquon early in his career. He couldn't stay on the field because he couldn't pass protect. So I think you got to be looking at formational groups more, but I don't know if Robinson will last that long. He's too much of a weapon. I mean, when you can average 10 yards a catch in the passing game for the running back, like Todd Gurley did when the Rams were really going good, you got a weapon in the backfield. That's why Kamara got paid. That's why McCaffrey gets paid. That's why Eckler's underpaid.
What do you think of the wide receivers in this year's draft class? It seems like everybody has a different top five. How many are in the first round? This is a tough one to project.
You know, you can ask Brian my view on receivers, because I was schooled by Bill Walsh. Now, maybe Bill Walsh doesn't know anything about football. Most of these mock draft guys do. But Bill Walsh always would say to me that don't fix the receiver position on your team until the rest of your team's fixed. And you say, well, he drafted Jerry Rice. Well, that's why he did it, because the rest of his team was fixed. And we traded up to get Jerry Rice. But the reality of it is you take a receiver that's not a number one receiver in the first round, you're still looking for a receiver. I mean, look at the Titans. They take Corey Davis, the 7th, 6th pick overall in the draft?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, how many blown picks are there? In 2019, John Ross from Washington, because he ran fast, was the 10th pick overall in the draft. You have a bigger chance to blow a receiver in the draft than you do any other position, because you never see a receiver in college football play against a pro corner. You never see him play press coverage unless you're playing Alabama. You rarely see him get away from press. You rarely see him have to win at the top of the route. You rarely see him come in and out of his breaks with burst and acceleration. You know, I would suspect there's probably going to be very few number one receivers in this number one picks. I think maybe two. You know, here's what I always would say to Brian. You see 5 receivers in the mock round, in the first round of the mock drafts, throw the mock out. It's wrong.
Yeah. Michael, speaking of that, and you were the other day you were talking about the mock draft you saw with Bryce Young. Bryce Young. I mean, basketball flashbacks here. But with Young, and then they were talking about Carolina, and it had to do with, they're hoping. Kind of walk us through that whole thing, that discussion.
All right, so, the Wizard of Oz in pro football is Pro Football Focus. They're behind a curtain. We don't know who the hell they are, right?
Right.
There's no name attached to them. It's just Pro Football Focus. And people quote it. Pro Football Focus says, Pro Football Focus. That's all they say. It's Pro Football Focus says, Pro Football. Like, nobody knows who's grading them. We have an old saying in scouting, evaluate the evaluator.
Right.
But with Pro Football Focus, you can't evaluate the evaluator because he's unknown. He's behind the curtain. He's the grand wizard. And so when they ran their mock, and I don't know who wrote it, but he said, look, the best quarterback in the draft is Bryce Young. But I would move. But since Carolina traded all those assets, they got to take a big chance and take Anthony Richardson. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Here's David Tepper, who's made more money than anybody alive in the hedge fund, who understands the difference between gambling and risk, right? Gambling is something you're a chance for. It's a one-day event. Strategized risk is something you plan. He's planned this out. He's going to take the best quarterback. He's not taking any risk. Anthony Richardson is a huge risk. I love the kid's talent athletically. I don't love his tape.
Yeah.
Michael Lombardi here on 105.3 The Fan.
What do you think about DeAndre Hopkins? Are you hearing anything about why he hasn't been moved? What's going on behind the scenes with him? And does he get dealt?
Well, I think, I hear a lot about it. I mean, nobody wants to take on – the guy wants more money. I mean, think about all the contracts that receivers have gotten since he's done. Mike Evans is another guy. He wants more money. Now, the Bucs can't give it to him. Mike Evans' contract is kind of old based on the receiver market that's been created through Christian Kirk. So Hopkins wants more money. I'm not sure he's easy to get along with in the locker room. I think there's some issues there. Houston just didn't give him away for nothing. They weren't just stupid. Everybody wants to blame Bill O'Brien. But there were lingering effects going on down there. And so I think that's the issue. I think there's some problems. And Arizona took it on like Arizona typically always does. They take older players on, and then they wonder why they're at their end of their career. I don't see a market for him out there at that number, and then he wants to redo his contract. Think about this, guys. Jalen Ramsey's a really good player. He went for a third-round pick. Why? Because nobody wanted to redo his deal. Only the Miami Dolphins did. They were playing really a one-team race. So they went against themselves. They went and they got him for a really cheap deal. A cheap deal in terms of the compensation, not in terms of what they had to pay Ramsey.
Who's got the leverage, Jets or Packers, when it comes to Rodgers?
Oh, the Jets have it all. I mean, the Jets have it all. In fact, the Jets should be embracing. In fact, if the Jets should say, "Look, we're not talking to you till after the draft." They know Rodgers wants to play for them. They've got Rodgers there. So if they have the player and they have the agent, they can't get backdoored. And so to me, if I were the Jets, I would want the draft to get done, because now I'm going to trade away picks that are going to be way lower than any picks I was going to give them. Because right now they got the 13th pick, and they got a pick in the second round. Next year they may have the 29th pick. They may have the 32nd pick, right? Here's what people – I love this. People always talk about, well, we got a one. I mean, I just read Jim Irsay say, first-round picks are like gold. No, they're not. They're players. They turn into players. If you called Jerry on the phone today and said, would you have traded Jonathan Abrams for Amari Cooper? He said yes. That's a great trade. That's the trade. That's what happened.
It's Michael Lombardi here on 105.3 The Fan. Where are you on Mahomes taking a challenge from Burrow as the top quarterback in the game?
I think it's all just for clicks. I think we'll see it all for clicks. I mean, both of them are competitive. Both of them are great players. I mean, Burrow has got it, and, Mahomes has been able to find a way to win those games late. I mean, Burrow's beaten them 3 out of 4 times. I love it. I think that's what makes, to me, let's go to Lamar Jackson. Why would an NFC team go after Lamar Jackson? Why wouldn't Washington go after Lamar? I know Ron Rivera says, oh, we're not interested. Really, Ron? Yeah. You got Sam Howell playing quarterback. I mean, really? You're not interested? Like, this guy could flip. If you're in the NFC, there's no competition. When the schedule comes out, I know all you guys will go over the schedule. We play this thing. The only reason you look at the schedule is to see what quarterbacks you're playing. That's it. And when you're in the NFC, you're not playing great quarterbacks on a weekly basis.
Other than Bryce Young, do you think any of these quarterbacks pan out?
No, I don't. I'm not sure about it. I'm not 100% sure. I like Stroud. I don't love him. I worry about that Ohio State offense. It's a little bit too – I'm looking to the sideline. Tell me what to do. I think Will Levis is one of those players that if it goes the way it was practiced, in practice on Thursday or Wednesday or Friday, and he'll execute in the game. If it doesn't, it's going to be a problem. Richardson, to me, he's not a quarterback right now. He's 2 years away from being 1 year away. He needs so much more work. I wish he would have come out, would have stayed. I was fortunate enough to watch Lamar all through his collegiate career at Louisville. My son was a coach there. I kept telling my son, Matty, let the other kid play. Like, put the other kid in. Lamar's not ready to play. And all that year, they kept going back and forth at Louisville. Finally, when they played A&M in the Music City Bowl, Lamar became a better player. It takes time. And Richardson's play last year on tape was not good. Even the games that people say he played good in, when you study the tape, they're not good.
All right, staying at quarterback, will Jalen Hurts continue to have big team success when the big cap hit comes that they're going to give him?
Well, I mean, they're going to lose some players, right? But I think the Eagles have done a really good job of building their team through the offensive and defensive lines, which matters most, right? And that's going to take a little bit of a cut because they're going to lose some of that money that they've allocated. Look, they lost Hargrave. They brought back Brandon Graham. They brought back Fletcher Cox. I would have rather played Hargrave and traded the money we gave Graham and Cox. I think it's going to hurt them a little bit, and I think it's going to affect them. But they have these 2 number ones, so they get an infusion of young talent. As long as you keep hitting with your draft, that's the Cowboys' success. I mean, Will McClay does a really good job there. They find ways to get players. They get guys like Pollard in the 3rd round. I mean, those are things you got to hit on when you're paying the quarterback.
Michael, before we let you go here, the situation with the Cowboys, if at 26, are you going to sit there and just and let the board come to you, or are you going to be a little bit aggressive here if you see somebody you really like?
I think it all depends, Brian, on how many first-round grades they actually have. I mean, why would I trade up to get a second-rounder?
Yeah.
Right? If say the Cowboys have 15 first-round grades on the board, and most teams have between 15 and 20. You and I both know that.
Right.
So if I'm sitting there at 26 and there's why would I trade up to get a second-round player when I'm going to get him here at 26? So, but if somebody's there that I have a first-round grade that I could get to without giving away an asset, then I would try to do that. But if you're the Cowboys, just stick to your board, take the best player that you have that fits. It doesn't have to be your need because most teams at the end of the day need everything anyway.
Right.
Like, there's no perfect teams. This is what cracks me up about these mock drafts. Well, Houston has to take a quarterback because they need one. Well, if they take Stroud and he's a bomb, they'll need one next year.
Michael, we love having you on, man. Enjoy the draft and the rest of the offseason. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, guys.